Howdy, Fort Bend. William Ferguson coming to you today from the beautiful Seth in Sugar Land, Texas, in the beautiful Howdy, Fort Bend studio. You guys probably know I've been out hitting the streets lately doing a lot of fun stuff, but I'm going to get serious again today because I had to bring one of my guests back. Allen Bogard, I got to tell you, you are stirring it up.
Well, thank you for having me back, William.
Well, how is your campaign going? How do you feel? Are you excited? You tired? What's going on?
No, I feel really good.
Yeah.
I believe I'm getting my message out about the need for some change at the courthouse.
Sure.
Some independent decision-making and some proven experience, and that's what I offer.
So I want to say this early because right now you guys are probably thinking, well, William, he's just endorsing this man. Well, I want you to know I endorse what he stands for. He stands for change. He stands for stuff that's making people so uncomfortable. I'm reading your social media, and they are wearing you out, but you are answering every one of their questions. And I thought, you know what? Get Allen back. Let Allen answer it sort of once and for all, on a video.
Sure.
And now you can just link it and tell them to pay attention. So
the
today, and all of my videos are not an endorsement. They are simply a way for you to learn what Allen stands for. That's my job, to ask him questions. So, Allen, today what I have in my mind is talking about what I would refer to as basics first.
Yep.
And that's sort of, it encompasses a lot. So when you think of basics first for the county, as we refer to as Precinct 3, what are your thoughts about basics?
Well, basics to me includes making sure that we have adequate compensation for sheriff's deputies, for example.
Yes.
We have a large number of vacancies within the sheriff's office that we can't afford to have vacant.
Right, you can't.
While we're fighting crime.
Sure.
And so having practices that I am experienced at conducting, like annual compensation studies and making changes to the compensation plan on a regular basis so that you keep up with fair compensation for your employees, and that you can bring the very best people. Maybe you might not need as many people if you got the very best people coming in to help help join the force, and not to mention technology. Technology in law enforcement is a force multiplier. We know that. And we've certainly accomplished that in our time with Sugar Land.
Sure.
So that is another area what I see as basics. But in defining what basics is, you have to define what basics isn't.
Right.
And in my mind, basics does not include the county and county taxpayers, which are primarily residences, paying to rehabilitate the Cole Theater in downtown Rosenberg.
Yeah.
It's not that historical preservation isn't important. It's that the proper people need to be paying for it. It needs to be coming from the city of Rosenberg. It needs to be coming from a historical commission, a heritage foundation. It doesn't need to be competing for dollars with adequate compensation for your people that you rely on.
Let me interrupt you on that, if I may. Sure. Tell us a little more, because I've read about it, but a lot of our viewers may not even know what you're talking about regarding the Cole Theater.
Well, the Cole Theater is a historic theater in downtown Rosenberg. It goes back 100 years. It's been vacant and unused for the last 20 years because the rehabilitation of it is going to be outrageously expensive. Well, the county slipped in $1 million item in their $800 million plus bond election.
844.
And concluded that gave them permission to move forward with the project, which includes the county now taking over ownership of it. They don't have rehabilitation plans. They don't even know how much asbestos needs to be removed. I mean, it's just a bad idea all the way around.
So let me clarify what you just said. So the county is taking over ownership using, correct me if I'm wrong, ad valorem dollars through a bond approval.
That's correct.
So ad valorem dollars, for those of you that don't know what this means, if you own a property in Fort Bend County, say a home, you are paying ad valorem dollars annually to the county and other taxing authorities. But if you don't pay those items, if you don't pay your ad valorem taxes, you ultimately, the end result is you lose your property. You have to pay your ad valorem. So people on fixed incomes right now are the ones ultimately included to pay for things like the theater. Correct me if I'm wrong.
That's correct. The vast majority of revenues that comes into the county is from residential property taxes.
Okay.
And therefore, the majority of the money that's going to be spent on rehabilitating the Cole Theater is going to be coming from people's pockets,
Okay.
our residents' pockets.
Isn't that crazy?
And it's not that it isn't a worthwhile endeavor, but when you have dogs running the streets because you've shut down your animal shelter from accepting more animals, and you've got the problems that exist in Four Corners and county roads that are not being maintained, it just does not make any sense to be spending your money. And I announced last week that on your show that now they've decided that they're going to do a new full-service hotel conference center next to the epicenter. Guess what? Taxpayers of Fort Bend County are going to pay for it too. And I'm going to go ahead and say this. The epicenter and the new $150 million training facility that no one knew anything about because they weren't put up for a vote were both given to the same contractor to build. Adds up to over $250 million. That hotel is going to go to the same firm. I bet you dollars to donuts.
Wow.
And those contractors are the ones that are financing the campaigns, the campaign donations that are going into the resources of the county commissioners as they seek reelection.
Well, you are saying a lot right now, Alan.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, you're comfortable with that.
The fact is, all you got to do is go to the Fort Bend Elections Office website, and on the left-hand side it says finance reports.
Campaign
Pull up
finance.
the finance reports for any of the current commissioners.
Sure.
And you will see the names of engineering and architecture firms making large donations. And then if you go to the agenda page and put those names into the agenda search, you will pull up the contracts that they have with the county right now.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. Can you imagine? Well, I don't want to get into it. I got to keep my mouth shut.
That's-
Sometimes I need to keep my mouth shut. So talking about the Cole Theater, if it's taken over by the county, so correct me if I'm wrong, that property comes off the tax rolls. So it essentially becomes a non-taxing property.
Correct.
So if historically, if I may, the appraisal district had assessed the property value at $5 million, I'm using whatever number, at $5 million, they would collect taxes on $5 million. But if the county takes it over, how many taxes are collected on that?
There aren't going to be any property taxes paid to any of the taxing entities. Also, you could look at an old building like that.
Wow.
That needs rehabilitation for a future need of the county, and you might be able to justify it that way. That's not what they're doing.
Right.
They're doing it for what they have announced as tourism development in downtown Rosenberg and rehabilitation of downtown Rosenberg.
Wow.
Why should the residents of Missouri City be paying for the rehabilitation of downtown Rosenberg?
Yeah, no,
It
Rosenberg
makes no
should.
sense.
Yeah, just like Sugarland should.
That's correct.
That's absolutely
correct. We never went
Okay.
to the county looking for handouts.
Fair enough. Well, I got to keep my opinions to myself. I'm trying to stay focused. I'm sorry, Alan, you got me wound up. Hey, let's talk about economic development because I see comments all the time regarding economic developments. What are your thoughts on economic developments in Precinct 3 primarily and the county?
Well, Fort Bend County needs industrial sites.
Yeah, absolutely.
Needs to attract industrial investment.
Jobs, everything. Yes, sir.
Not only for jobs, but to lighten the load on the residential property taxpayers.
Yes.
And that can be done by attracting business investment. And I am regularly hearing that one of the big problems in attracting business, particularly in Precinct 3, is we do not have any industrial sites that are business ready to go. And I believe that's a problem across Fort Bend County. So when the county is making infrastructure investment decisions, it needs to be prioritizing making sure that we are creating those opportunities for new business investment and the jobs of the future instead of extending utilities or roads to serve new residential areas, for example,
Right.
which are only an additional burden on all of the taxpayers because they don't pay their own way.
But who was it? It was Dr. Lalani. He's a state rep. He was in here recently, and he said something really interesting that I think merits. I think I've repeated it now 2 or 3 times. He said that when we are elected, it's not that the voter is giving us power. They're not giving us authority. What they're giving us is trust.
That's correct.
And you never want to forsake trust. And so most taxpayers never, ever, ever will take the time to understand what you just said. Allen, you just said a mouthful, and it is important that every elected official realize they are managing the trust of their constituents.
Very few people understand the details of what was in that bond election.
Yes.
They did not go through every $1 million out of $840 million to understand that their vote yes was going to be interpreted as spend all the money you want on a project.
Yeah.
They are depending upon the judgment of their elected officials. And when the judgment of their elected officials fails them, it destroys that trust, and it'll make it harder to meet the needs of the county moving forward.
Wow. You have said a lot. I'm so glad you came today. And by the way, I had a feeling it would be a little spicy today, only because I've read what I don't want to use the word frustration on your part, but on mine, I get frustrated at people asking redundant questions to you. You've already answered them 1,000 times, so I thought, let's do the video and maybe they'll get it. So
excellent.
Sort of the third point I wanted to cover today was good government. When I think of good government, I'm thinking about how do we manage ethics, things like pay, merit pay, things, all of that. What are your thoughts on good government?
Well, I think in Fort Bend County, it needs to start with ensuring that we've got a merit-based selection process for county vendors.
Right.
It appears to me, by my review of what's public record, is there is too close of an association between decisions of who's getting contracts with the county and county campaign contributions to elected officials.
Right.
And those two things should not
never
have anything to do with one another.
Yeah, so can I give them a comparison? I'm going to give them a comparison since you have such extensive knowledge in it. So correct me if I'm wrong, in the city of Sugar Land, for a engineering, because I've had them approach me as a council member. They've come to me, here's my name, blah, 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 and I tell them all the same thing. I don't make that decision. And they look at me kind of,
That's correct.
Yeah, confused. And I'm like, it's going to be a process. You're going to submit. They know that, but they try to circumvent the process. And then what happens ultimately, once they kind of get vetted through the process, there will be 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever finals bids that are all qualified lowest. And usually our executive team will make a recommendation for most qualified lowest bid. But sometimes, I think once or twice I've seen, it wasn't lowest, it was second lowest, only because the project was something that contractor had done before, was very trustworthy, the outcome was outstanding, and it was a difference of $30,000 or something. Yeah. But as far as a representative of the city, I have nothing to do with it, nor would I ever challenge the system and go, no, let me go speak with that engineering company or that developer. Right. That's not my role as a council member.
Well, I would make a distinction, clarify that when you're accepting bids for a construction project example, that is a low bid award unless you have a reason to go to someone else.
I agree with you.
However, engineering firms don't bid.
Okay.
They are based on qualifications.
Okay.
It is supposed to be a merit-based system.
Very good.
The way that it appears to work with Fort Bend County is each commissioner identifies who it is that they want to have doing work in their precinct.
Oh, okay.
And there is a pretty close relationship between who those people are and what campaign contributions come in.
Wow, yeah.
When you have a situation where one of our commissioners has almost $1 million in their campaign fund, there's something wrong going on.
Don't get me started on that, Alan.
And then they use that $1 million to scare off anybody else to run against them. So you have this circular thing going on that keeps these people in office. And we need to also be working on some sort of term limit.
Wow.
If we turned out people the way that we do in Sugar Land at the county courthouse, we'd have a whole new county commission right now.
Now, I'm gonna certainly favor that because I believe every elected position should be a term limit position. And I don't care at what level, if they're elected by we the people, there should be a term limit. So I'm gonna start there. Second thing is the only miss, or the only, in my opinion, the only loss I see happening, and you've experienced government longer than I have, is when you have someone tenured, and if I may, two of our county commissioners are very tenured. The relationships they've built with the state and the federal level is almost priceless. It doesn't mean it can't be made again. It just takes so much time to be a commissioner that can bring something to the table for a state rep or for a federal level congressperson. And so if the relationships are in place and a term limit ends that, but then the trade-off is you get new ideas, new voice, new everything. So I think I lean always to term limits.
I think there's going to be a lot more responsiveness to the needs of the community.
I agree.
With a new blood coming in to the county commissioners. The other thing I'd say is that all of our local government agencies have consultants and lobbyists that work for us in Austin and in Washington, D.C., who can make those introductions and build those bridges that need to be done. It does not have to be someone who has been in office for 30 years.
That's a good point as well. I wasn't even thinking about them. So I like your idea. You do know you're going to ruffle a lot of feathers with that comment.
Well, and one of the things that I'm getting pushback on is, wow, you don't sound like a Democrat. You know? Well, I don't see good government as being partisan.
It is not.
It is not. A balanced budget is nonpartisan.
Yeah.
Honesty in government is nonpartisan.
Right.
And I grew out of a career of nonpartisanship. But I am a Democrat. I want to take care of the lesser amongst us.
Right.
And that comes from my deep roots in my childhood. That's who I am. And I'm going to work hard to make sure that we are concentrating on the things that matter to most of people.
So a two-party system, again, my opinion, two-party system is the downfall of America. And the reason I say that is people stop choosing the best candidate because they just want a D or an R.
You wouldn't believe the number of people who have told me that I want to support you, but I cannot vote in the Democratic primary.
But they can vote in the general.
In the general.
They can vote in the general.
Well, I got to get through the Democratic primary first. And I've got some tough opponents, one of which is the favored opponent by the county judge.
Yes.
There's a lot of money that would otherwise be going into his coffers that are going to that candidate.
Wow.
And he's got the full backing of all of the power of the Democratic Party and the party bosses.
Yeah.
So I've got a tough row to hoe, but I'm after it.
Well, you better get to hoeing.
I am.
Oh, so any other thoughts, Alan? Now I'll let you get out of here.
No, I think I've probably said enough.
You have said, here's what I know, because I know politics in Fort Bend. You've said enough.
Very good.
So, Alan, I just want to wish you well, just like I would anyone, wish you well. And I don't mind telling you, I appreciate you keeping it kind of spunky and fun.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's giving people things to think about.
Yeah. You remember Bev Carter.
Oh, of course. Her and her little paper and all.
I'm having to do this because there's no Bev Carter.
There's no Bev Carter anymore.
Running a newspaper and getting to the bottom of this.
Wow,
so
wow.
I'm trying to shed some light on it in the absence of Bev Carter and in memorial of Bev Carter.
That's it. There you go. Right. So, guys, as we always do, or as I always do, I want to certainly challenge each one of you. If you have a candidate that is on the mission you want, that has a vision you have, my challenge is to you to get involved. And that may be something, because we're in crunch time right now. It may be something as simple as working a polling place for Allen or any of your candidates. But guys, if you don't vote, Allen has no chance. None of the candidates have a chance that may share your vision. You have to vote. So get out, be a part of the solution, contribute. If Allen and other candidates, especially with your vision, how they're on that vision and they need signage, whatever it is, you got to be a part of it. Otherwise, ultimately, you're going to get you're going to get the government that you probably didn't want because you didn't contribute. So I'm gonna sign off with that. Any other thoughts?
AllenBogard.com.
AllenBogard.com.
JFK said you're going to get the government that you deserve and demand.
There you go. All
Let's
right.
demand more.
So as I always do, howdy Fort Bend, and we'll see you again. Bye, y'all.